This is a story that we never allowed my father to tell.
Facing life in prison, Sammy the Bull Gravano turned on his boss, John Gotti.
Am I a rat? I took fucking 20 years to help my kids and my family.
A few months later, they're gonna kill me to send a message to my father.
This is Phoenix, Arizona.
We were trying to start a new life, but we would definitely fish out of water. There's this whole lifestyle in the middle of the desert, having rave parties.
Ecstasy.
I wanted to control the ecstasy scene here in Arizona. I think I got like 30,000 hits of ecstasy.
We got rid of them in a week. But then some guys started undercutting us.
English Shaun.
English Shaun was the mastermind to our ecstasy empire.
The name Sammy.
English Shaun. Beware.
The Bull Gravano entered my sphere. And they became the biggest threat to the organization.
I don't give a flying fuck. We'll go to war like that.
I just took off running, smoke shooting out the window.
I was prepared to kill him and bury him in the desert.
Everybody knew the consequences of the life.
It was me and my family against the world.
How you doing, Shaun? How's everything? Are you still banned from the United States?
Banned from America for life. I had to agree to that.
I wonder why.
My plea bargain. And I was happy to leave the country, really, because things went a bit wrong, as you know,
Yes, I know.
in the ecstasy business. But America was good to me. Let me make this clear. America was good to me. I had a good run legally in the stock market. I loved the American people. I went out of control. I broke the law and I deserved to be punished. And I take full responsibility.
You stayed out of trouble over there? You never went back over there or anything?
I haven't even got a speeding ticket.
Yeah, I got out after 17 years, 7 months. I didn't even get a parking ticket. Yet. Who knows?
I was on the edge of my seat watching the documentary. I mean, they filmed us here for days and days and days, and I had no idea what was going to be in it. But when I watched it, the way they'd put it together, the action, the suspense, the cliffhangers, I was like, my heart was going, man, all the way through it. And when I heard the bit about you talking about Mike Papa whispering in your ear, you know, Atwood's talking shit about you, Atwood's not refusing to meet you, all this
It just doesn't sound convincing. Just doesn't.
stuff. We got to take him out. You need to take him out. I was like, oh my God. 'Cause I'm hearing a lot of this stuff for the first time in my life. I had no idea
Freudian slip there.
what was going on within your organization. All we heard was you got these steroid head guys, these devil dogs guys running around at the clubs, bragging they were the biggest, ecstasy barons in the world. And we're thinking, who are these people stepping on our toes? And then all of a sudden, people are dropping in. Yeah, we're working for Sammy the Bull. One
His son looks absolutely annoyed.
call to him and we can have you guys taken out to the desert. That was the first we heard of this. And we were thinking, are these guys blowharding? Or is this Sammy the Bull thing real? Because we knew about Sammy, all over the news, Gotti, Underboss, all that stuff. So that was just playing with our heads until we finally realized that you guys were in town.
Yeah. Well, they were using my name. I had no idea that they were doing things and saying things like that. I never had a problem with you. I never thought about taking you out or doing anything like that. Wasn't the first thing.
Didn't Shaun say he was after Shaun and to take him out? He definitely said that 4 years ago.
From my mind. As you know, we got to know now anyway. And but it is what it is. Whatever happened happened.
Poor Sammy, he just doesn't like telling tales. He just doesn't. Even though he did what he did, I think he repents for that. Let's see how this conversation goes.
And then end result, we all got punished for it. We all got caught. Everybody played into their microphones. They had all kinds of tapes. They really, if you see the whole thing, is that they had very little of me on tape talking about anything. Because really, I didn't have hardly anything to do with the ecstasy anyway. I could care less. You know, the one situation.
There you go. There you go. Sammy had nothing to do with the ecstasy business. It wearing his bag. He's a gangster. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense.
Where I think Papa and somebody beat up two drug dealers, and they were tied to that guy in the Jewish mafia in New York. What's his name? Zaga. Yeah, Zaga. And that's how I got in trouble because when these two guys went to New York to talk to Zaga, one of Zaga's guys was wired. They listened to the whole conversation and they were talking. They said Sammy took over the ecstasy business and he's kicking us out and stuff like that, which was all nonsense. I didn't take over anything. And so a couple of blanks there.
There you go, guys. There you go.
Yeah, we were definitely being egged on, and I was being pushed to, you know, most of it was lies. I wish you actually would have met with me. I don't think we would have ever had a problem. I think we would have been able to coexist. I wasn't. I was telling Anna a few minutes ago. I think I was paying seven. If I could have got it for 50 cents cheaper, I'd have been happy. You know, I think if we would have met, we probably would have got along and still been running around Scottsdale. But that's a whole nother story. Yeah.
That's it. That's the thing. They don't just behave like fucking snipers, you know what I mean? So I think Shaun saying that, like it or not, looks bad for his son, doesn't it? Let's face it.
And none of these.
Gerald, how did it get to the point? How did it get to the point then where you were going to kidnap me from the crowbar? What led up to that?
I was actually home in my house relaxing, and I got a phone call, I think, from Mike Poplar or a couple of people, because we were looking for you. I just wanted to sit down originally and talk to you. And then they kept coming back to me, telling me you were saying F me, this, that, the other thing. You wouldn't sit with me. And they kept egging me on to be violent. And it's not initially what I was wanting to do. And then, yeah, they told me you were at that club that night. And then we pulled up there. Thank God you did leave when you did, because it was a good thing. But yeah, it was retarded. I was young, making bad decisions, not thinking about consequences and things of that nature. Yeah, we all get caught up in our mistakes. It was an ego thing. Well, ego and our mistakes in life, and that's what changes us around and makes us different people than we were. And I think we all have that. So whatever happened, happened. It's in the past. There's no hard feelings between us all. So I think that's a good thing. And we go on with life. And now we did this. I watched the interview as well, and you were right. It was riveting. They did a great job. I can't wait until the public sees it. I think they're going to be really blown away with this. So, and we're going to try to coordinate this video with you and that coming out, which would heighten it up even more. So that's great. They see us like this, not what the people say and all the bullshit. So they see the real deal. And you were the real deal.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Sammy. What I'm curious about is because I arrived in Arizona in 91, and we started working with all the locals in the rave scene throughout the 90s, throwing the parties, bringing the ecstasy in. And then it was like you guys showed up in the late 90s. I'm just wondering if you could just tell me a bit more how you ended up getting involved in that whole scene, Gerard.
Well, I owned a restaurant. I moved from New York. I originally moved from New York with my girlfriend. Um, and I had a hard time adjusting to Arizona. It was a lot of, it was a different culture than from what I grew up and what I was used to. Um, so I went to culinary school. A couple of my friends from New York lived down here, went to culinary school with me. I opened up my own restaurant. My partner was this guy, Mike, who was my cousin's boyfriend. He was from New York too, from Staten Island. I grew up with him, knew him my whole life. And at that time, I just had my youngest son and I had a girlfriend. I wasn't going out. I was going to work, going home. I had a kid. That life wasn't a part of me. And my partner, who was from New York, he was going out. He was partying, doing coke, and meeting all these people that I wasn't even going with him. I was, like I said, going to work, going home. I think there was a point in my life that me and my girlfriend broke up, so I was single. So my partner starts bringing all these people into my restaurant. Some kid, my papa, he's from New York, he's from Long Island, decent looking kid, he was popular. And it was more like the crowd and people I knew growing up my whole life. So I was able to identify with him a lot better than most people I met out here in Arizona. They were cage fighters, they were tough. It was kind of how I grew up my whole life. So I believe one day they kept trying to get me to come out, come out, come out with us. And one day I was in my restaurant, I was in the back. I think I was doing the drawer, doing the books. And he came in the back and he was just asked me to come out and he put $1,000 on the table and he gave it to me. I said, "What is this?" He said, "For nothing, just it's for you. Just come out with us one night." And little did I know, even at that point, before I even went out with them, he was already selling ecstasy, he was selling steroids, and they were running around the club making a name for themselves before I even stepped foot into a club in Scottsdale. And then when I started going out, I said, okay. I put the 1,000 in my pocket, and we went out a couple of days later. And I don't know if you remember in Scottsdale and some of those clubs, it wasn't easy to get in. There was a line 50, 100 people long. And when we went, we walked right in through VIP. And back in the day, VIP, nowadays, VIP is you spend $1,000 on a table and $300 a bottle. Back then, VIP was you walk in free, you get a free table, free alcohol, everything was free. And I got caught up in that. And I just was out partying. I didn't really do ecstasy, to be honest with you. I did it once or twice out, but I felt like um, I always felt like I needed to be on guard. And when I would do that, I just didn't. I would get more paranoid. I'd feel like out of place, not in control of myself. So I normally didn't do ecstasy out. Then I started meeting more and more of these guys, these cage fighters, and then we would have fights in clubs, and they were selling ecstasy. And to be honest, I never sold ecstasy. I always had it. I used to give it away for free. They used to sell it, and
That's what I mean. I'm not being funny, Ecstasy's not that fucking great.
that's how it all started. And then I got in it. We bought some. They bought some. They were selling it, and I made a few dollars. And then they kept coming to me with all these ideas and how to be bigger and how to make millions of dollars and this and that. And your name kept coming up, and I knew you were getting it cheaper because they were telling me you would. I was paying about $7 each. I knew you were paying $2, $3 each. So I figured if I can get it for $6 or $6.50, I wanted to sit with you and talk to you. But that never happened. They kept egging me on to we have to do something, we have to do something. So we started beating up and robbing drug dealers that we knew were associated directly with you. And I don't know if you ever know this guy Jason.
So he was against drugs. He was against drugs, so I don't know if this friend exists, to be fair.
And his girlfriend Alana, Jason De Palma, I think his name was.
So my right hand guy, who was in the documentary, Schoolie, his name's Jason. And he was the one who got his teeth knocked out by you guys. What some of you people affiliated with you guys or claim to be.
Yeah,
Claimed to be.
we were fighting every night going out. They would call me up and say, "You're here, you're here," and we would go, and I would want to talk to you in person.
And that's, I think, how I got involved is that this kid picked up his dad's name, which is me, and started using my name to intimidate and do things which I had no idea was even being done. So, and that's how this whole thing started. And then it went from one extreme to another extreme and stuff like that. I remember once I walked in a house and they were cutting up some money. And I think it was Mike Papa pushed some money near me. He says, "Yeah, you could take this." I said, "For what?" And he said, "You could be with us and we'll give you an end." I said, "End of what?" "Ecstasy." I didn't even know what ecstasy was. And I didn't want it. I didn't take it. I didn't want it. I didn't want to be part of it. And, but it kept on using my name and stuff like that.
You got to realize we owned a restaurant, we owned a construction company, we had a pool company, we had dump trucks, bobcats, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars in equipment, not millions, but like $1 million in equipment between bobcats, and we were getting all these different jobs. I think, we worked our pool company to be like sixth or seventh largest growing pool company in the valley. The ecstasy killed us. If it wasn't for the ecstasy, we would have built what we had, quadrupled it.
Yeah, especially that I was in construction and Arizona blew up. Every place was construction. If I would have stayed here, never got involved with that, I would have been a powerhouse in construction because that's what I did most of my life. I understood that business and I was growing like crazy. So the last thing I needed or wanted was ecstasy or problems. And here's how they beat up, I don't know if it was my pop or you, whoever beat up these two drug dealers. And this is Zaga's guys. And there was, I thought it was crazy that they had a fight. They beat them up and they left it there in the restaurant. I made an appointment to sit with them. I sat with them. I wanted them to shake hands and make friends and walk away so there's no repercussions. When I sat there, I talked with them and they shook hands. And then I said, my wife and my son own this restaurant. I understand you're coming here to make deals for drugs. You're welcome to come here and eat, but not to come here and make a buy or a drug deal or anything like that. And the guy answered me, he said, well, I got permission from Zaga, the head of the Israeli mafia, Heidi Fleiss. We have permission. I says, they gave you permission to deal drugs out of my wife's restaurant? And he said, yep. So I said, I'll tell you what, fuck the Israeli mafia. Fuck these guys. I changed my mind. The two of you. If I ever catch you in Arizona again, for any reason, I'll kill you. They went back to Zaga, told him what happened. Zaga had that conversation. And in the conversation, they said Sammy took over Arizona, which is not true. That's how I got indicted with the feds. It became a federal crime rather than the state. So I got pinched not only with the state, I got pinched with the feds. And that was my whole involvement. I mean, I had really hardly any involvement whatsoever. I did lend them money. Had that kid Papa worked in my pool company, and a few of them. I talked to my son one day. I said, "Listen, you get out of that business. Come over here, work for me, and you'll make money." And he says, "Dad, we ain't got any money." So I understood that they were selling that stuff like hotcakes. I said, you know what? I'll finance a couple of deals. You'll have enough money in your pocket. Give me your word you'll quit. Who knew that they were already under investigation? And so when I'm lending them money, one time one guy said, I wanted Shylock money like a Shylock would get. If I lend you money, I want Vic interest. And I think it was my pop who said, you know what? The interest comes out to we'll give him 50 cents a bill. So what he says, giving me 50 cents a pill, made it like I was a partner. That was my end. but that was towards Chirac money, a big. But the government and the state twisted everything, and that's how it really went. Uh, and then that fat douchebag, what's her name? Janet Napolitano wanted to make a name for herself and say, I busted all the ecstasy rings, I got the mafia, I got Sammy the Bull, I got this, I got that. And she ran for governor and won on that reputation, which she was full of shit. And everybody knew it. We talked to the cops even after, years after the pinch, and they said, yeah, that was all exaggerated. We lost control of it when the feds stepped in, they told us. And the feds brought it to a whole new level. And that's what it is. It just kept exploding. Your name, all these names came in and it started, oh my God, we're going to make a big reputation out of this. And they exaggerated the whole thing. Even your business. You were the king of the ecstasy, there was no doubt about it. But you didn't do any damage. You didn't. There was no violence. There was no nothing. But they, once they get it, they exaggerate it like, and that's what happened with this whole case.
Yeah, you were a trophy name for the prosecutor and the politicians, and then the foot soldiers were throwing your name out left and right. So in the beginning, we thought you were running the ring because that's all we heard at the street level.
Right.
And Gerard, we never had a solid line of direct communication. No one ever approached me and said, look, Gerard wants to sit down with you and talk about some kind of collaboration. We never heard anything like that. The first I heard about your enterprise was two guys sat me down in Heart 5 in Tucson, the Spaniard and this other 6.5 foot steadhead. And they asked me to start distributing you guys' pills. They said Jimmy Moran, Sammy the Bull, they're throwing this name out. And I said, look, I'm already established. I've got my own press from Holland. I don't need to be working with you guys. But there's enough room for us to coexist because the problem is we can sell all the pills all day long, but the feds, the heat that you guys are bringing to the scene, undercover cops are recording license plates in the car parks. There's guys coming in pretending to be from out of state, trying to set up drug deals. They're obviously undercover cops. Since you guys have been coming into the clubs, the heat's just gone crazy. And that's how we left that conversation. The Spaniard was friendly. The other guy was a bit of a hothead. And it was like some people who were saying they were with you guys were getting product from us from time to time, including in Puerto Penasco when they ran out. But other times we were receiving information that you guys had a bounty out on me, 10,000. And then later when I met Gerard, when we were incarcerated, and he told me the story of the possible kidnapping, it kind of put things into place. But now I fully understand, Sammy, and my heart really opened when in the documentary you did this to try and get your kids out of the mix. It was all rooted in the love of your family, and I had no idea. And to take the fall and do all those years, wow, that was something else.
Well, that's life. I mean, it was a big misunderstanding. The government and the state took advantage of those things. It happens. It happened. It's no one's fault. I don't think. I don't blame anybody. I don't have hostility towards anybody. But I appreciate what you're saying, and you're saying is 100% right. And putting out a $10,000 bounty. That's, if you know me. Listen, I was a mafia hit guy. I don't pay 10,000 to kill anybody. If I wanted to kill somebody, I'd kill them myself. So I never paid anybody to do anything that I would do in a heartbeat. So that's completely ridiculous. Why would I pay anybody to kill somebody? So
yeah, there was a lot of BS at the street level. People just bragging about you guys.
yeah.
Well, I'm curious then. Where were you sourcing your pills? How were you getting them?
From Las Vegas and California. Two different.
How did you establish that? Was that through Mike Papa?
Yep. I never met them people in Vegas or California. I think the people from California is how Elon Zaga and those people got involved. Do you even know who Elon Zaga is? You ever back in the day? You ever hear JJ, the King of Beepers? That's him. He was the beeper king on the West Coast. Um, and he was in California with Heidi Fleiss. He was their enforcer. There's all these Israeli guys when she needed help or something, she went to them. But I don't. She wasn't selling drugs or anything. She was selling other things.
And that supply, was that constant, or was it hard to keep
No,
getting enough to?
it was hard. Sometimes they didn't have it. Sometimes I think one of their labs got blown up or something, or went on fire. I mean, there was months where there was nothing. It was just. It was very, very, very inconsistent. That's why I wanted a communication, direct line of communication with you. I think I went to New York one time and got some from New York once or twice, but it was just very sporadic.
So what was your deal with Mike Papa Gerard when he brought you in?
He brought me in to use my name. As simple as that. As simple as that. I mean, there's no other thing. I didn't sell drugs in my life. I think I sold 100 pills to some girl. She got out of my car and got arrested in 2 seconds. They were following me, and that was the only time I ever sold a pill. Basically, it was just me going out, him and all his people selling it, and then we would cut up some money. I don't even think I made much at all.
I think it might be interesting to talk about the enforcement arm of this operation. A lot of people were dropping in the name the Devil Dogs. Was there anything to that?
No, they were a high school wrestling team. So my papa went to high school in Gilbert, and he was on the wrestling team, and they used to call themselves the Devil Dogs. When he graduated from high school, his younger brother was on the same wrestling team in that school, and they called themselves the Devil Dogs. After high school, that was it. You know, in Arizona, they used to go fight in people's backyards, backyard fight club, this, that, and they used to call themselves the Devil Dogs. But no, I never even met his brother personally. I think I met him in prison. Kevin, I think his name was. That had nothing. It had nothing to do with us.
They brought them up at my case too, the Devil Dogs. Now they were way, way younger than me. I never even knew them. I never knew who they were. I found out at my case who they were, and they were my papa's kid brother, and they had a lot of racial bullshit about them. They were talking racial shit all the time, and they were fighting and doing things. Even the guy who was cooperating against me, he was asked the question, did he know them? And the witness said no. Did he buy drugs? No. Did he sell drugs? No. Then what did he do? Meaning about me. He says, well, he was lending them money, which I was. I did lend them money on 4 different occasions to get them out of the business, thinking it was a smart, dumb move. I thought I was being cute. Yeah, do this, make your money and get out and come with me. Because, like he said before, we had a lot of businesses going, construction businesses, everything like that.
How about you? How did you get into it? Well, it explains.
So when I was still a stockbroker, I would pull up at these like warehouses or these like parts of South Central Phoenix where they were having these little underground parties. I had a twin turbo Mazda RX-7, Bose surround sound, blasting the German techno outside. And all the ravers would come out and talk to me. And that's how they started calling me English Shaun and the Bank of England. And they started to ask me to invest in the parties. So there was all these little cliques competing. And when Wildman came over, when these little cliques had disputes, they would come to us and we would like oversee the disputes. And we incorporated all these little cliques into our criminal enterprise. So by the peak of it, we'd unified all these little cliques. And we must have had almost 200 people throwing the raves, smuggling the ecstasy in. Now, our route, in the beginning, we were getting them, locally, then out of LA. And then we lost a few people, smugglers and stuff. So we started to bring them in through Mexico. So our route then was we would send someone from Phoenix over down to Rocky Point, Puerto Penasco. We had a base down there, and then we put people on flights from Hermosillo over to Mexico City to Air France to Paris, and then they get the train over to Holland. Now, this was before 9/11, so you could put tens of thousands of pills in your luggage back then and just jump on a flight back to Mexico. And then when we had these people in Puerto Penasco, we would relinquish their duties, give them to other smugglers who had like SUVs, U of A stickers, scuba diving tanks, all this tourist stuff, And it was spring break, that was ideal because everything would be backed up, and we just smuggle them across the Arizona border. So when we were flying people directly into America, a couple of those people got busted. But when we were flying people into Mexico and driving them over the border into Arizona, nobody got busted at all using that route. And then we got the price down to like, $2 a pill when we were getting them out of Holland, buying them in bulk. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty smart.
So I was a little familiar with the ecstasy scene even prior to coming to Arizona. In New York, Sound Factory, you had Peter Geisha, Lord Michael. It was a big thing back in the 80s in New York, the New York club scene, the Tunnel, Limelight, Sound Factory, the Palladium. It was a big scene back then as well. So
Yeah, DJ Kyoki was part of that. He used to come out and play for us.
yeah,
Party Monster. He was in that movie. Yeah.
uh,
So with going back to Mike Papa then. So you get in with him. Was there a point in time where you started to get suspicious about him? Because what I learned is internal strife can bring things down. Because when the cops saw Sammy, they were investigating me. And they put me on pause to go after you guys. But what happened was, two of my top guys, Schoolie and Wildman, fell out with each other. And Schoolie got so scared, he went to the cops. And he was the only one. There was 10 people on the grand jury indictment, 10 witnesses. He was the only one who had the inside scoop. And I know in the documentary, it's like the role of Schoolie and the role of Papa. So what happened with Mike Papa then? Did you start to get suspicious about him? Was he doing sneaky things behind you guys' back?
Now, let me answer that first. No, because he was a good-looking kid, good fighter, and he used to fight. That's when I knew. And he was going to school to become a doctor. He was in medical school. So when I heard his background, I almost liked the fact that he was hanging out with my son. That's a pretty good background. Unknown that what he was doing with all that ecstasy and everything else. Then I found out years later, I got a call. He got married and moved somewhere. And his wife called up, my daughter, I think it was, right? And said she would like to tell us about when he was talking about us in the trial. He was lying and what a scumbag he was, how he would beat her and do this, that, and the other thing. It's the furthest thing I thought from that kid. He seemed really sweet, nice. I don't mean sweet in the gay way. Sweet person, good person, going to school, want to be a doctor, want to be everything else. I thought he was the best thing since sliced bread. Even though I haven't talked or dealt with him any, I even hired him to work for my pool company. And unbeknownst to him, I gave them all radios so we can communicate what's pool you're at, where you got to be. We can call each other. They bugged all those phones. They got them all by my papa, my son, everybody on tape. The only one they didn't get on tape is me. The only thing they got on me with tape is that I had asked my wife, do me a favor, send me down 60,000. And when they counted, it was 5,000 short. And I said to my wife, I think it's 5,000 short. She says, no, I counted it a couple of times and it's 60,000, which you wanted. She don't know what I'm asking the money for. And she sent the money. That court recording got her busted like she's part of the thing, which she wasn't. She had no idea of any of this stuff. And that's how she got tangled up in the whole thing. And the 60,000, a day later, he's buying $60,000 worth of ecstasy. So they hooked the whole thing here. Sammy's the boss. And, they just, every little thing exaggerated into something it wasn't, actually. I know where the 60 was going. I was going to charge Sherlock Vig on it, but I really had nothing to do with the ecstasy at all. I had no, back in the day when I was in the mafia in New York, there was people bringing in heroin, huge fucking monies, and I always stayed away from it. I was in construction, Shylock, and my stuff, and I always stayed away from it for the reason that I didn't like the people you had to deal with, especially with heroin. So I never got involved when I could have made millions, and here I am fucking around with a couple thousand here or a couple thousand there for ecstasy. So, but unfortunately, I got hooked up. My name dragged me right in, and tried to go explain something that you didn't do when you got a reputation like I got. It didn't work.
And for me, no, I didn't see nothing. We never argued. Even after we got arrested, I never knew he was even cooperating up until they arrested me for witness tampering and obstruction of justice. Because we were both out on bail. I didn't realize he was even cooperating that time, and I met him. I told him, we have a good shot of beating this. If we can get these wiretaps suppressed, we have a good shot of beating this case. Stay strong. Let's fight this with everything we have. He went right back, told them what I said. They took it as a threat. They re-indicted me for witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and threw me back in jail in 2021.
So what was the basis for the witness tampering?
Because I told him not to cooperate. And I told him, I said, listen, if you cooperate, you're going to save yourself 3 years. Let's fight this. Let's stay strong. Let's see where this thing goes. And they're trying to say I was coercing him not to cooperate, and they took it as a threat, which it wasn't. If I would have known he was a witness, I wouldn't have never met with him. I'm thinking I'm talking to my co-defendant, fighting our case. So I never knew he was a witness. So I didn't knowingly tampered with a witness. So, but I still got charged with it, and they used it against me. And I think I even got more time. I think I got some more time over it as well.
That's crazy. Every time we went to court and all our co-defendants were in the cell together, we were all telling each other, don't cooperate, blah, blah, blah. What's the latest? What are they trying to get you to do? And we had a united front.
Let me ask you a question. Because when we got arrested, you weren't arrested. You were out in the streets. This hit the news. It was all over the news. It was all over everything. What did you guys think? Did you guys quit at that point? Or were we nervous? Because I don't think anyone in our case basically got you arrested. I didn't even know you. They never even brought your name up to me or asked me any questions about you at all.
All right. So my dumbass, I've been taking drugs for 10 years, and it scrambled my decision-making processes. We're telling each other we're living like we're in a movie. We're above the law. We're never going to get caught. When you guys went down, we were like, yeah, they just took out the competition. They did us a favor. But they also arrested some friends of mine in the New Mexican Mafia. I don't know if you remember, I had a few guys that had my back in there. And even at that point, I was taking one of the brothers to his brother's house, and they were bringing all those guys out, the feds, SWAT team, as we were driving down the street, and they were headline news. This was around the same time they got you guys as well.
Big arrest. We got arrested, and the Mexican Mafia got arrested right at the same time. It was crazy.
Yeah. So I had a lawyer, and he was like, the heat's on, they're watching you. And I did quit the importation a year before the SWAT team came. But I was naive to the statute of limitations. I thought they had to catch you with the drugs. I didn't realize all it takes is someone from your past to say they've done a deal with you and it's conspiracy and it's 7 years statute of limitations. So, the drugs was telling me you're Mr. Cool Guy, you're living like you know, what I actually had was gangster writers, young man working in the stock market, watched too many movies like Scarface, and then you're around these characters, and it's like characters like Sammy. I mean, you grew up with this. This was something I'd only seen in the movies,
Right.
and you're around these people, and it goes to your head. It becomes addictive, and it knocked my senses off balance, and I had to accept my karma cheerfully when the SWAT team came May 16th, 2002, finally.
Yeah, because you could have took off, and you have stayed away for a couple of years. They may have forgot about you.
Yeah, they said he's a flight risk. They set my bail at $750,000 cash only. And then when I went for a bail bond reduction, they doubled it to 1.5 million, which moved me from Towers over to maximum security for the next year. So they played all kinds of crazy games. I remember, Gerard, when we were at Towers, and this was the first time I met you, and you showed up in Towers, and they knew about the competition because of that Phoenix New Times article. The guards had put it on the board in the staff room at Towers, so they knew about the competition, and they thought it would be funny if they chained you to Wild Man to see what would happen. And we got along great because we were like talking all night long. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and at that point, it's over. It's us against them. So I don't think we even had an argument, nothing. We got along great.
You know what my bail was when I got busted with the state? $5 million cash. $5 million cash. I said, well, I guess I'm stuck getting no $5 million cash. So
I did bail out. I was out on bail for 11 months. That's when they re-indicted me.
I never got out. I got out 17 years, 7 months later.
Sammy, you strike me as someone who's extremely vigilant. I remember reading an interview where you were saying you ain't gonna get no fake ass beard and live in Montana and hide out. You're here. I'm the real deal. And if they come for me, I've got surprises for them in my house.
Right.
So my question for you is, as the heat was building up, as they were about to take you down on the ecstasy case, this vigilance, the spidey senses, was that kicking in?
I'll tell you why. That's a great question. No, because I really had nothing to do to it. I didn't know about the heat on that. You know, me, I came to Arizona in 1996. I wrote a book. The book was Underboss. It was selling like crazy. I was talking to people in Hollywood. The furthest thing in my mind was ecstasy. I never took ecstasy. I mean, I don't even know what it's like. And what I understood later on during my trials and stuff like that, they actually exaggerated. Ecstasy is like pot. You don't become addicted on ecstasy. So when they were saying, yes, you become addicted, so I said, well, wait a minute. These kids are taking ecstasy on the weekends, and all week long they don't take it, then it's not addictive. It's impossible. When you take addictive drugs like heroin or some of these you got to take it every day. You can't just take it on a weekend when you feel like it. That's like smoking a joint. That's not, you know what I mean? Then they gave it, well, it said gateway drug. Gateway my ass. Everybody takes, you have a drink, they'll have other drinks. You take an aspirin, some guy will take 5 aspirins because he got a headache. You know, everything is a gateway drug if you want to look at it that way. So they exaggerated the whole thing. Because if they really looked at ecstasy, I did some homework over the time in prison. It's really not addictive, and hardly anybody ever died on ecstasy. The only way they ever died is if they took ecstasy, they're dancing, they dehydrate, and they're taking other drugs. So the 2 drugs together, dehydrate, and they'll drop dead. But they blame it on the ecstasy. I don't think anybody ever died, I could be wrong, but on just ecstasy, especially if they took it on a weekend or something.
Well said.
But to get back to your question, because I think you asked a different question than that answer. Yes, right before we got arrested, we did sense that something was wrong. Cops sitting on us. We thought it was a hit team. We had a meeting as a family. We thought something was off. So we knew about a week and a half to 2 weeks leading up to us to getting arrested, something was happening at that time. And it was the cops, but we didn't know it at the time who it was.
Yeah. See, even that part in the show I saw where I says, if they want to go to war, I'll go to war like this. Now, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about Zaga and them, because they're threatening with me that he's the Jewish mafia. And I think I made that statement. I said, they want to go to war, the Jewish mafia? Let's do it, bro. I'll go tomorrow. You think I'm afraid of the Jewish mafia? So, but everything was taken out of context. But I think they did a great job with this uh, documentary, and I think they put it where it really belongs, basically. And I saw it. I thought it was great. This interview, I think, is great because we're talking the truth. It's about time that we were able to talk the truth. And maybe we'll do a lot of other things in the future. Not ecstasy, bro. We'll do more shows or things like that. If I ever get offered this parole, which I doubt it, maybe I'll come down to England and do some live shows with you, and you show me around England and stuff like that. I have a lot of friends in England too. So
Yeah, you tell a hell of a good story. There's not many left from your generation who could tell a story like that.
yeah, it's getting thinner and thinner. Every day, I'm up in age. Every week I hear somebody else died. One of the guys just recently, Tommy Snake, we were on the ramparts together. I think it's not, but 3-4 weeks ago, I just got a call. Hey, Tommy, one of the last of Mohicans, he just died. So,
what are you up to now? What's your next big project? Where do you foresee yourself here in the future?
Oh, just interviewing a lot of people on the YouTube channel. I've written 17 books now. I've written a series of books deconstructing the war on drugs and mass incarceration. And Sammy touched on an important point because researching those books, I went to the Hemp Museum in Holland, and on the wall, they had all the names of these people who, under 3 strikes laws, were doing 25 to life for weed possession.
Yeah.
We didn't even kill anyone.
I know.
And then the pedophile priests just getting slaps on the wrists. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like I said, a lot of guys, black guys, and some Hispanic guys would come to me in prison, especially with this RICO law, and talk to me. Sammy, what do you think? Because I know a little bit about the law after all these years. And I would say, listen, here's what you got. You got a decent shot. Take a plea and plead guilty. If you take them to trial, they're going to go for the max. And here's the thing. You're fighting the government. They'll have 4 to 6 smart lawyers. They call it the war room. They're in that war room to put you away. And you're going to have some broken down lawyer who's a court appointed guy who's going to fight them. He don't stand a chance. And then your investigator is some drunken cop who got a license to be an investigator. And their investigators is the FBI. Bro, you're dead. You don't stand a chance. And the RICO law is meant for you to lose. Every time they lose, they created a new law into the RICO law, and now you don't stand a chance. It's rigged, basically, that you can't win. Who makes it? Judges, prosecutors. They changed the law to make it their way. You don't stand a chance. And if you're on tape, the hardest thing in the world is, what do you say when your voice is on tape? That's a lie? That's you. That's you talking. So you're up against the wall. Yeah, but Sammy, I hardly did anything. There's no violence. And that don't mean nothing. You're facing 20 years. What are they offering you on a plea? 8. Listen, brother, take it. You're going to do maybe 6 or 5. Take it. Listen to me. When you go, if you blow, you're going to do the full 20. So Yeah,
Yeah, they're like used car salespeople.
yeah,
So when they first arrested us, they hit me with about a dozen charges. They put serious drug offender status on me, which carries 25 to life. They said if I went to trial and lost, they would stack the dozen charges, which is 100 plus 25. So a year in, I'm still fighting my case. They indict me again. They double my bail to 1.5 million, move me to max. And now they tell me if you go to trial and lose, you've got 24 charges. We're going to aggravate it to the max and give you 200 years. And then when your lawyer turns around and says, plea bargain, 10 to 15 years, then you're thinking, holy shit, I can get my life back. Because they scare the living daylights out of you, thinking you're never. Every month I would go to court, I never got to say a word. My prosecutor would say he's the Antichrist. My lawyer would get up and say he was the stock market child protege kid gone wrong. It was all bullshit. None of it was true. The truth was in the middle. The truth was in the middle. It was all theater, all theater. And you're thinking, I'm facing 200 years, and my life is in the hands of these like 3 people. What the fuck is going on? And then Gerard, on your original indictment, what was it that they charged you? A continuous criminal enterprise, conspiracy, all this heavy shit, that life sentences.
yeah. And you know what it is? It's a little tiny bit of the truth exaggerated into a complete monster. And you were partying, you having fun. You didn't have a really nasty bone in your body. I still don't think you do. And they'll make you a monster, like he's some sort of a killer. We got to get him off the street. And that's not true. So you look at these things and you say to yourself, it's completely crazy. And
Yeah, I was classified as a non-violent drug offender, but Wildman, who they classified as our chief enforcer, he was a maniac. And reading your stuff, Sammy, Alley Boy, I see parallels there. Have you got any Alley Boy stories you can share with us here in the UK?
yeah, absolutely, he was my Gumbada alley boy. I was telling Anna we would, I'm doing a movie, and so they're asking us for some of the stories and stuff like that. We went in, we were out on bail on a double murder case, and we took this guy gave us this little hamburger place, deli type of thing, and we were in there working, and weren't getting any customers. So my Gumbada alley boy says, Sammy, if we go around the block, there's a bar at night. We could buy people drinks, make friends with people, and we could get some customers. So I said, all right, that sounds good. We went in. We were there. We're drinking at the bar. The guy who's sitting right in the middle of us owns the bar. And they were gambling they turned the bottle upside down. The 5 dice come out, that game. So we bet. So I win the bet and I take the money, the pot, and I put it on top of my money. The guy picks up all my money, everything, and puts it on top of his money. So I said, bro, that's not funny. How are we going to know whose money's who? He says, I own the joint. It's mine. Get out. And I just looked over his shoulder at my Gumbada, and me and him were like, as soon as he looked at me, he gave the smile on your face. He did the same thing with that smile that went, and we both hit him at the same time. We caught him in between. His mouth exploded. Teeth came flying out. He was knocked down. He sold the place from somewhere else. We did all kinds of weird shit. We left the bar, and we robbed everybody. The cash register, we robbed all the people who were sitting there, and we left. We got in the car, and I says, goodbye. You think we made a good statement here tonight? You think they're going to come to our store? So
Is he still alive?
no, he died in prison. Michael Mata, and the guys would tell me, guys call me a rat or this or that, the other thing. They said, listen, I did time with you, Gumbada. Every time somebody said something about you, he was fighting them. You couldn't mention your name in a bad way. So me and him were close to the end, right to the end. And I know family. I know some of the family, his daughter. We're still in touch. I'm still in touch with a lot of people that from years ago. And, it's a pleasure, but he was great. You know what it reminds me of? I don't know if you saw the movie, um, the Town, where the guy comes in and he says, listen, brother, his friend is sitting there with his hand on his cheek like this. I'm going to ask you got to come with me. We're going to hurt some people. And I can't tell you why. I can't tell you who they are, but I need your help. The guy who's leaning like this, he looks at it and he says, okay, whose car are we going to use? So that's my Goomba, the Harry boy. That's all I had to do was call him up. Goomba, come on over. So, and he was there. And vice versa.
Yeah, I've got a wild man story that ties in with teeth flying out, and wild man died just over 2 years ago as well. He was only in his 40s, and it ties into you guys' operation as well, because we had a guy who was double dipping. We used to call him Handsome Mark, and when I quit the importation, he took money from one of our customers and went and spent that money through people who said they were getting them from you guys, we later learned. Anyway, when Handsome Mark was driving away from this house, he was pulled over, and the feds took the pills, and they took him in, but they released him the same day, which was very suspicious, which we only found out later from the paperwork. Anyway, the customer, she went to Wildman and said, look, I just gave money to Handsome Mark, and I haven't got my product. He's ripped me off. So Wildman got to him, and he said he punched him so hard in the face that the guy's tooth got stuck in between his knuckles, and he couldn't get it out. And he went to hospital to get it out. And the nurse was like doing whatever, and she eventually gets it out, and she's like, how did this happen? He's like, how the fuck do you think it happened? And it's the kind of way he was. And she says, I need to stitch you up. And he's like, fuck that, I hate hospitals, and just walked out.
Yeah.
So he gets home, and he's got fishing wire in his apartment and a needle, and he just sews it up. He just sewed it up himself with his fishing wire and his needle. Well, that's what he was like. And I think the night when we were talking to you, Gerard, I think somebody tried to say something to you, and a wild man give him a lock or tell him to fucking sit down and shut the fuck up or something.
I don't remember. I had one fight in county jail. That was it. My whole time in prison, nine something years, not one fight. I did well in prison.
Before we get to the prison stories, why don't we talk about the days of our arrests?
What did you think of that story then, my girls? Well, that's all from me for now. I'll let you make your own mind up about him. Take care for now. Bye-bye.